Hello, hello, hello. This is Willie Cartwright with From Saved to Sane. I like to say good afternoon, depending on where you are, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are listening to this. Those of you who watch it live, thank you for joining me. Those of you who will catch the playback, I'd certainly appreciate that. Thank all of you for the support, for the support, for the support. Um, Today's topic is still going to be it is still going to be health effects of leaving Christianity. But in lieu of what happened recent school shooting we had yesterday, I think it was yesterday, and last weekend in Buffalo, and the one yesterday was in Texas. Is it Uvalde, Texas. Um, we're kind of going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to mix some stuff in because I think all of it is related to things that I have to say about our reaction as a community, as a country to something that is uniquely American. Not that it only happens here, but it is in sheer certainly outweighs. It happens here way more often than in other countries. The numbers are staggering. But I want to talk specifically. I want to talk about our response as a country, and some of that we'll touch on how we respond, why we respond from a religious and a spiritual standpoint. So I want to touch on that as well. Let me begin by, again, as I always do, thanking Taisha Essick, who got me going, got me started. Not sure if she's going to be able to join us today. She's aware of the topic today. I know her schedule is busy. She's doing a lot of things, so she's trying to handle a lot of things. So if you're listening, Taisha, thank you for everything. Take care of yourself, handle your business, and we'll try to do this. If you can come on, if you can come in the chat box, that'd be great. If not, I still certainly appreciate it. Thank you, Steven Stevens from Tennessee. Where in Tennessee? I spent 2 wonderful years in Chattanooga, 19 fresh out of college, 1992 through 1994. So I was in Chattanooga. I lived in Chattanooga for a couple of years. But I've been all through Tennessee, Memphis, and Nashville, and some other areas. But good to have you, Stephen. Please feel free to make a comment as we go along, and we'll try to address those comments. But I thank you for joining. Columbia, Tennessee. Where is Columbia? What's the what's the closest big city? Christine Williams, thank you for joining. I appreciate it so much, Christine Williams. As I was saying, thank you to Taisha, who may or may not be on, but I always thank her for her support and her for pushing me. And I always give a shout out to my wife, who is behind the scenes doing everything. She's keeping me energized and making sure that I live up to my promises to do these, if not every week, certainly every other week, and all of the other stuff that she does. Certainly would not be able to do this without her. She is an intelligent and wonderful and beautiful person inside and out. So I like to say thank you to my wife, Salima. Let's, without further ado, let's kind of get into the topic. So as I said when I first started, we wanted to do health effects of leaving religion, and certainly we will do that. A lot of that is obviously mental, but there are some physical sides to that as well. But I want to begin today by addressing and talking about the recent tragic shootings. The one yesterday, and I think it's Uvalde. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, somebody can tell me in the chat. And in Buffalo, New York. I think last week I talked about the one in Buffalo because that was close to home. That's my wife's hometown. Stephen, thank you. 40 miles south of Nashville. Okay, cool, good deal. Been to Nashville a few times. Took my wife to Nashville last year. That was her first time in Nashville. She thoroughly enjoyed it. You guys have grown. Nashville has really, really grown. That was the first time I had been there in about 20 years. So definitely had really, really grown. So great things going on in Nashville. Uh, but as I was saying, so we talked about the Buffalo shooting last week, uh, in connection in context with forgiving or forgiveness. So we will continue to address that because, as I said last week, that hit home. My wife is from there. Her family is from there. As a matter of fact, she uh, grew up within walking distance from that Tops grocery store. Um, that tragic shooting happened. But yesterday, we this country endured another mass shooting. This time, 21 individuals, including 19 fourth graders and two adults, were killed by 18-year-old uh, deranged individual who went into a school. Uh, Obviously, this channel is about religion and spirituality, leaving religion, and along those lines. So, I would like to address this and make my comments in the context of what's next and why haven't we done more to avoid these types of shootings. First of all, people need to do their research about how uh, how much this happens in this country compared to other countries. And we won't have a debate on here about guns necessarily. I'm a gun owner, but I would gladly give my gun up if it meant that this country no longer had guns. I'm certainly in favor of some type of gun control, especially when it comes to automatic weapons. Not sure why we need, as citizens, why we need AR-15s or those type of AR weapons. So yeah, so I am definitely on the record as being in favor of some type of gun control. I remember when my wife and I went to London. This was some years ago, but we visited London, and we got into a conversation with the cab driver, and we got to talking about guns. And he mentioned to us that at that time, they, as citizens, London, were not allowed to have guns, and that the police uh, rarely had guns, and that they hadn't had a shooting. They hadn't had a mass shooting at that time, and I don't know how long. And they hadn't had a shooting, regular shooting. If anything is regular about a shooting, but a non-mass shooting incident in a period of time as well. And they told us that there's an automatic jail sentence for, I think it was 5 years for just having a gun, and there was a year added for every bullet that the perpetrator had, or the person who had the gun. But understanding that a gun culture is not part of their DNA like it is here in this country. You know, our gun culture is ingrained in us as a country from the very, very beginning. Um, Constitution, but it depends on how you interpret that, and that's been, in my opinion, that's been misinterpreted. People have used it for their own benefit. But the point being is that my wife felt extremely comfortable in London just for that reason that a gun a shooting was rare, a mass shooting was even more rare. And so that was one of the things. But the cab driver kind of laughed at us. He asked me how many people did I know personally that had guns, and I said probably everybody I know, everyone I know. And so we had that discussion. But that was kind of it's kind of unique and kind of weird to have that discussion with somebody in another country about our gun culture here. But when I think about why can't we do something about the mass shootings, uh, from the standpoint of what we discuss here on this channel, some things come to mind, and I've been watching social media and the response from people, in particular Christians, about this mass shooting, and we've seen the typical thoughts and prayers. I've seen people who say that everything from uh, "let Jesus fix it" to "we're being punished as a country because we strayed away from God" to maybe if prayer was in school, that this wouldn't have happened. All these, in my opinion, are asinine statements. But these are the things that we have to be aware of when we live in a country that is dominated by believers, because everything is viewed through the spectrum of religion, the majority being Christianity in this country. Even if it's disingenuous, it can be used as an excuse for doing nothing. And I think a lot of times that is exactly what happens. So I want to address each one of these and why these viewpoints are extremely dangerous. Um, so I will begin with the first one. Well, thoughts and prayers. Well, I've already had several uh, debates with people on social media about the whole thoughts and prayers, and I've seen people who say, you know, work without prayer without work is useless. And my response is always, why don't you just skip the prayer and let's just do the work? Because obviously the prayer isn't working and prayer doesn't work. There's no objective empirical evidence that prayer works. We did a video on prayer, and I notated I referenced some studies, in particular the Templeton Foundation study, which is a religious organization per se, did a study on prayer to try to prove that prayer worked. And this is a well-known study that you can research. It's called the Templeton Group, and you can research Templeton Group prayer research study. And they showed that at the end of the day, there is no discernible difference in outcomes when people pray. So prayer doesn't work. So I've told people, why don't we just skip the prayer? Because obviously your God is not coming to fix the problem, because we've had these problems and worse problems since the beginning of time. And your God has decided that he or she or whatever is not going to intervene. Although the same God would help you find your car keys, get a promotion at the job, and pass a test. So, for whatever reason, saving the lives of innocent kids, preventing slavery and the Holocaust is just not high on this God's priority list. So we need to do the work, and we need to stop waiting for a savior to come down and fix us, and we need to do the work ourselves. So the whole thoughts and prayers, or let's pray and work. You could just skip the prayers and just do the work. You get the same outcome. If I sat around and just prayed, the desired outcome would be zero, right? If I prayed and did the work, then something gets done. But if I just did the work, the same thing would get done that got done when I was praying and working. So obviously, prayer is not the centerpiece of what happened, what make change. What make changes is our effort and the work that we put in. I know I'm preaching to the choir, pun intended, but we have to get beyond that as a society and just realize that we need to do the work, and there's not going to be a savior that's going to come down here and save us. Um, I think the next thing is the whole apathy that I see in people when people say, "Well, let's let God fix it," and that's something that's I think I see a lot more in our community, the African American community. And let me read for the comments before a few of these comments before I continue. It's about the fascination with death and killing. This male couldn't wait to purchase these weapons. It wasn't for self-defense. Yeah, he turned 18. If my understanding is right, he turned 18 about 9 days ago. Christina, thank you for the comment. So he turned 18 a few days ago, about 9 days ago, and he immediately went and purchased two assault type weapons. During the incident, he had one with him, and he also had on what they believed to be some kind of tactical clothing, a vest that could have been bulletproof. But he left the other assault weapon in the car. I don't know what the intentions were for that. Maybe he can only carry one. So yeah, and so that's something, that's low hanging fruit. Why not have a law where you can't purchase a gun until you're 21, go through proper training, go through a proper psych eval, and all of that before you purchase a gun. So that's something that would be easy to try to fix that loophole. Obviously, it's not going to solve or be the answer to every mass shooting, but at least let's attempt to do something that maybe we can alleviate some of the mass shootings. And we'll get, as we continue to talk, we'll get to why this is impossible, or at least proven to be extremely difficult to get some of these laws passed. And it is about who some of our people elected to office and why they elect these people to office, especially evangelicals, and the mindset behind there, and why that needs to change if we're going to see a significant change in these gun laws in this country. But anyway, Stevens say the people who knew they were being prayed for got worse. Absolutely. So, Stephen, you are aware of the study. So that is absolutely correct, and that's one part I left out. I think I mentioned it back on the video a while back, but yeah, absolutely. And they said that that was due to the fact that either people, because they knew people were praying for them, they thought that their condition was actually worse than what it really was. And so the added stress actually made their condition worse. Or it was so much pressure. Um, they felt pressure because someone was praying for them. So I guess they felt pressure to actually get better, and it had kind of the opposite effect on them because, as we know, stress causes a lot of issues in our bodies. So absolutely. So yeah, thank you for that, Stephen. Um, and so we're talking about, and so where I left off with the apathy issue, let God fix it. That is a big one in our community, African American community. I don't know, and I don't want to disparage my people, but I don't know if that's because we truly believe that God is going to fix it at some point, or is it because we don't want to do the work that's required to fix some of our problems. So it's a lot easier to say, let God fix it. And then we walk away feeling good because we believe that God is supposed to fix this for us. But whatever it is apathy that we can no longer afford in this country when it comes to certain subjects, and especially the one we're talking about today, which is at this point right now, which is mass shootings. Um, Also, that whole attitude of let Jesus fix it or let God fix it takes away our power. It makes us docile, it makes us dependent, and it takes away our power and the ability of us to do things that we need to do. We have a tremendous amount of issues in our community. Some of those issues are stem from everything from, those issues are, I'm sorry, those issues are caused or a result of everything from slavery to things that we're not doing ourselves. But there are a lot of we have issues in our community that we can fix if we really tried, but we don't want to, or we decide not to, or we believe that somehow these are divinely orchestrated by God, and that only God can fix those problems. And so that burns me, because when I look at my community and say, here are problems that we can fix if we would just take our nose out of the Bible and get up off our knees and do the work to fix these issues in our community. But our people, at least up until this point, haven't done that as much as we should do. So the whole apathy about let Jesus fix it, let God fix it is another issue. Why? It's another reason why we have these problems, or we can't seem to get beyond these problems. And then that apathy is also in other communities as well. But what I've discovered is that whenever those other communities, for the most part, want to get things done, um, they don't let that apathy stand in the way. This whole thing with guns, that's a whole nother issue as to why we haven't got anything done from the majority community. Because that's everything from politics to money to whatever, to an agenda. But anyway, so Christina, they refuse to be accountable for one's action. Stop the blame game. Agree. I totally agree. Totally agree. That's what this is really all about. It's just, I think, I look around and there are so many things about religion that's frustrating to me. Um, but one of the things that is more frustrating than anything is the lack of accountability that we seem to have because of our dependency on religion and on God and on Jesus. And so we use it to alleviate us from our responsibility and our accountability for things that we do wrong, or things that we need to do better or be better at. So absolutely, I don't. That is one of the issues, and so this is one of the issues we should be working to fix this issue of mass shootings. But instead, we blaming everything and everybody else and not becoming accountable and say this is a human problem and humanity can fix this problem. And I think I made a post today on Facebook and I said just that. This is a human problem and humanity can fix this problem. So yeah, so as I go on, and we just talked about the whole apathy of it, believing God to save it, to save us. One of the other things I think that go along with that, and I think this is, I don't know if this one is as frustrating as it is. Just I kind of look and just shake my head at people when I hear this, because this is truly evidence of people not critically thinking through something before they write it or say it, and that would be this wouldn't be happening if we still had prayer in school. And I literally saw that today on someone's social media post. And I've heard it before in response to other shootings, especially shootings in schools. And so I asked a few questions. So the first thing I always tell people who say this and who come with this, and I said this to them before, there was a time in our history where prayer in school was pretty much automatic and it was done. When I was in school, it was done, every day. But during those times where everybody, for the most part, prayed in school, prayed during school, we had worse issues than we have now. And when I say worse issues, I'm not talking about mass shooting. I'm talking about slavery. I'm talking about Jim Crow. I'm talking about segregation. I'm talking about lynching. I'm talking about misogyny. I'm talking about all the other issues that we had in this country, and we had prayer in school. That's number one. That's always my first response. My second response is this: if your God is omnipresent, which means He's everywhere, how can you take Him out of school? I mean, I don't understand that. And then thirdly, um, because you're not allowed to publicly pray in school or organize pray in school, people still pray, whether it be teachers, whether it be parents, even students will still pray on their own. I know parents who pray before they take their kids to school. I know administrators who pray before they get to school. I know administrators who pray while they're in school. I know students who pray or prayed before they went to school and while they're in school. So this whole notion of us taking prayer out of school is a misnomer. That has never happened. People have still been able to pray. The only thing that we've not been able to do in this country is have an organized public prayer during school, which I think is awesome because, for a whole host of reasons. I won't even get into that, but just know that those of us who are not believers think that is awesome, that we cannot be forced to participate in a ritual that's not something that we believe in. So I think that's awesome. But yeah, so it's just, to me, it's just so asinine that we would say this stuff is happening because we took prayer out of school. I think it's crazy. And then I think finally, I want to address how this is connected to what we do here on this channel and what's going on with the shootings, how it's connected. Uh, a lot of times, so we have legislators who refuse to pass common sense gun laws. A lot of those legislators are conservative. They are Republicans. Although these events continue to happen, people continue to vote for those legislators. And the biggest reason, especially for evangelicals, is because they believe that these people are somehow represent them, and because they are Christians, then they should be running the country. And so the issue becomes because this person is a Christian or espouse Christian values or says that he or she espouse Christian values. Because if we look at what they're doing in their lives, is everything but what Christian values are supposed to be in a lot of these people. But because this is part of their platform, evangelicals and even some African American religious Christian people will vote these people in simply because they appear to be more religious or more of a Christian than who's ever opposing them, especially if they're in this if they're in the Republican Party. Now I'm an independent, but the reason why I bring this issue up is because if we're going to fix this gun problem, if we're going to pass laws to help um, to stop some of this bloodshed with these mass shootings, then we're going to have to look beyond whether or not a person is a Christian or not and vote for a person based on the issues that we think are important. And conservatives, time and time again, have shown you that common sense gun laws is not something that they're willing to tackle or deal with or vote for, whether it be because they're being paid by the NRA or it's just something that is just against what they believe in or their platform, or for whatever reason, the vast majority of evangelical Christians believe that they should have a Bible in one hand and a rifle in the other hand. I don't know how that's Jesus like or Christ like, but that seems to be what's going on and what we have here. And so there is a direct connection in what we're talking about here. And while it's difficult for us to get common sense gun laws in this country, and so we need to examine that. Why are we voting for these people? Is it our, maybe you need to vote for somebody who's going to, regardless of their religious belief or disbelief. How about voting for people who are going to do what's right for this country? In a case like this, pass laws that will help save lives. Christine, you said there's too many of youth with mental health issues. Those around them would stop turning a blind eye to these red flags. This young man loved to inflict pain on himself, cuts on his face. Yeah, I did hear of some of the mental illness part. Um, this also is is connected to what we're doing here as well. I think we've addressed the whole mental illness thing here on this channel with regards to African Americans and growing up. How we as African Americans, we never got treatment for mental illness. We were just called crazy and put in a corner somewhere, or we got the check from the government or whatever it was, or which is even more dangerous, or just as dangerous, I should say, is that we believed that it was a demon and that prayer or that Jesus would again fix it, or that we can pray the issues away. Hello, Taisha. Taisha she's joined us. Thank you so much, Taisha. Taisha, just really quick, we are discussing, we're supposed to discuss health effects of leaving Christianity or leaving religion, and we are going to do that. We're kind of mixing it in, but we've talked a lot today about the recent shooting, and what I'm doing is tying in um, what we do here on this channel with what's going on, why it's hard for us to get common sense gun laws passed, even though I am a gun owner, and I know you are a gun owner. But there are some things that I think we all can agree that we should be doing to try to minimize. We're never going to eliminate all the mass shootings, but at least to minimize what's going on. And I think there is some space where we should be discussing. But I don't want. This is not going to be about gun laws because that's really not the topic. What we're talking about is the attitude that from Christians after the shooting, and us wanting, and I shouldn't say us, but Christians elected to have Jesus fix it as opposed to them doing the work, or apathetic to what's going on because they believe that it's somehow divinely orchestrated as a punishment for us, or the fact that they believe that we've taken God out of schools and that's why these things are happening. All of those are asinine viewpoints, in my opinion. But that's kind of where we are on that. But Christina had mentioned the whole mental health issue. Christine, I agree with you. I think that when it comes to red flags, I think that given the condition of our young people today, I think parents, grandparents, any adults, relatives, any adults that see anything that's alarming in any youth of today, they need to definitely set something. They need to definitely try to get that person, that young person, some help, because these young people, and obviously not all of them, but from what we've seen, these young people uh, can go from 0 to 100 in a matter of just seconds or minutes. They can go from mild mannered to literally shoot up a school, and I didn't see that when I was a kid. I didn't. That was something that never crossed our minds. I mean, that was, if we got upset, I don't know. The worst thing we would do was probably fight someone, fight an individual. We didn't even challenge our parents, and no matter how upset we got, we were too afraid. But this whole being upset with somebody, then getting the AR-15 and going into a school or a supermarket or a movie theater or a ball game or whatever and shooting it up is just so. Yeah, so we have a lot of undiagnosed mental illness. We have a lot of diagnosed mental illness, but we still allow these people to pretty much move as they please in our society without um, curtailing their movement or their events or keeping an eye on them. And there's a lot of mental illness again that we just kind of ignore and say, oh well, whatever. But I mean, there's so much stuff going on, and I think, and I hate to harp on young people, but each generation is different. Don't mean it's bad, don't mean it's good, don't mean it's worse, don't mean it's better. It's just different. And so there are things in this generation, they are different than our generation and the generation between them and us. There are good things. There are things that they do a lot better than what we did, but there are things that are a lot worse. And so again, it's just a difference. Overall, it's not good or bad. It's just a difference. And so we as a society need to recognize and understand that what's going on with these young people. Um, in the case of Buffalo, that was a young man fueled with hatred, and racism that drove him to do what he did. And so there's so many different elements, so many different tentacles to reach out that we have to be aware of. And I think being able to get your hands on a weapon like an AR-15 just exasperates the whole issue. But again, I obviously at the root of everything is the whole mental illness issue, because I believe that regardless of the reason that someone does something like this, there has to be an element of mental illness with all of them. I don't want, and I got into a discussion with somebody last week about this. I don't want the mental, especially in a case like Buffalo last week. I don't want that to become the excuse. I don't want that to be the reason why this person is not sentenced and does the amount of time that he should get, which in my opinion should be the electric chair. But I don't want it to be minimized because they discovered that, okay, this guy's mentally ill. There are things that happen through the process of what he was doing that will let you know that at a minimum, while he's doing this, he wasn't mentally ill. He took the time to dress in bulletproof gear. If you saw the video, he walked into the store and he aimed a gun at a white person and said, "Oh, I'm sorry," because he realized that was a white person. That was not who he had intended on killing, because that person was not black. And so to me, that lends itself to say, okay, this person was not as mentally ill as they're going to make him out to be, so that they can minimize his punishment. And so we need to be aware of that. But there are people who are legitimately mentally ill that do engage in these kind of activities, and those are the ones that we need to really get some help to. But it's just so much going on. But I think in relationship to what we do on this channel, the first thing I think that we have to do, people in this country, is that we have to give up on this notion this is an issue that God has to fix, or give it over to God, or this is some kind of divine punishment or whatever. We have to get up off our knees. We have to leave the church, and we have to start doing the work. And that's all of us, not just African Americans, but evangelical white people, everybody who views this issue through those particular lenses. those particular lenses. Um, so Stephen, so Taisha says she's going to chime in about 20 minutes. Stephen says more education about guns and their effects couldn't hurt. I grew up in Montana and everybody had guns and we respected them. Absolutely, Stephen. That's a good point. I've heard that, and I growing up, I knew people. Everybody I knew had guns as well. Well, a lot of people. I grew up in the hood, so people had guns, but you didn't see mass shootings. I do think for me, my wife and I, we go to the gun range. We get lessons. We practice, safety. We don't have any kids, but if we did have kids, our guns would be locked away, and those type things. So I think that's part of it because the gun violence or the gun deaths, not just mass shootings, but there's normal regular homicides and then there's accidental shootings. I think, and I read a stat, I think suicides are actually the number one uh, 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 reason, the number one death in gun violence is by suicide. Um, but again, in relationship to this channel, there are some things that we need to do, or we need to continue to push for as advocates for individuals who are leaving the church, who are moving away from the church, in relationship to getting our independence back. Leaving the church frees you up to do things from the standpoint of this is just the right thing to do. And I think that's where we are with issues like this. The church needs to be doing the people of the church need to be doing things because it's the right thing to do, not because it's the biblically right thing to do, but because it is the right thing to do for humanity. We need to stop being mentally lazy and saying we're going to pray about it. Let's just get up and do the work. And I've had those discussions with believers over the last 24 hours or so. Christina says he even shot his grandmother before leaving. Yeah, I mean that's again that's a sign of some real mental illness. Uh, even if it's because he was angry. How do you get that angry where you kill your grand? When I was growing up, the grandmothers were. I mean, if there were if there were anybody in the community that you didn't bother, that you didn't harm, it was babies and the grandmothers, granny, nanny, um, the lady who raised us. We called her Gigi. Those individuals in the community were protected. And I can't imagine that you would do that to your own grandmother. Um, so when Taisha comes out, she can pick up this subject. But I just wanted to pivot a bit, and we're probably going to continue this next week on this subject. But I wanted to pivot a bit, unless there's any other comments about this particular, subject of what happened yesterday and last week, because I don't want to leave out last week. As I said when we started, the intent here was to speak about health effects of leaving religion. And I wanted to touch on that before we close out today and then maybe pick it up again next week. But I thought prior to the shooting, I mean, this was an important subject because I am part of forums that discuss leaving Christianity. And some of the stories that I've heard are heartbreaking. It is in relationship to health and mostly mental health, but there are some physical issues too that we can get into because some of the mental stuff leads to health issues. But but I think people don't really understand or don't really Christians don't really think about it. Believers don't really think about it at the time uh, when they're in the practice in the faith. But being a believer is stressful in itself. And stress induces all kinds of illnesses in our bodies. Our bodies are not conditioned to handle that kind of stress. And so when we talk about being a believer and making sure that we are always doing the right thing or that we're not sinning and that God is not going to punish us, or if something goes wrong in our life, is that God punishing us for something that we didn't do. It's a tremendous amount of stress or sitting around and waiting for a miracle. I said I know people who live from miracle to miracle, but that is a tremendous amount of stress that is on the human body. Um, just making sure that, okay, do you know how many sins there are in the Bible? I mean, it is impossible to live a life sin free according to what the Bible considers a sin. But yet, I know people who try. I remember this reminds me of a story. This is when I was still part of church. My wife and I would attend a weekly sort of Bible meeting at someone's house. And it was a great couple, really, really nice people. Ironically, they know I've left the church, and I ran into them a few years ago at a store, and you could kind of see that they were very standoffish. And the guy is actually a fraternity brother of mine, and the gentleman, the husband, and I mentioned it to him, and he really got kind of standoffish, and I don't know, we can mess with you anymore like that or whatever. But it's fine. But anyway, really, really nice couple. But one night we were there having Bible study, and my in-laws were there as well, and we got into this conversation. And during the conversation, during the whole night, the conversation, the wife, the wife host, she was eating nuts, right? She was just eating, just grabbing a handful of nuts, walnuts or peanuts or whatever. She was just eating nuts, right? And then at some point during the conversation, she stopped. She said, "Oh my God, I need to stop eating these nuts because that's a sin. I'm overindulging on these nuts. It's a sin." And I just and I just kind of looked, and I didn't say anything. And my mother-in-law, who is extremely devout, but she's very real, and her and I oftentimes kind of see eye to eye with stuff. She kind of looked at me, and I looked at her, and afterwards we had this discussion, and it was just, how are you just that you're that so devout until you're afraid to do anything? And mind you, this lady also uh, refuses to go to workouts where the music is hip hop or R&B. So she will only do jazzercise type of exercises, and I'm not joking. It's because she believed that this is a sin or that it would lead to a sin or whatever. And so she refuses to go to any place that's playing hip hop music, even if it's the clean version of rap or whatever it is. She won't do it. It has to be jazzercise or she can't attend. And so, I mean, those are small examples, but the level of stress that we inflict on ourselves as believers, or when we were believers, or when I was a believer, and what believers do now, it is just it is amazing, and it leads to to illnesses that we don't have to endure, that we don't have to have. And so when I thought about the effects of leaving religion, there are studies, and before I go further, let me acknowledge this because there are going to be people going to come on and say, religion's been great for me because it helps me to calm my mind and it helps me to feel like there's hope, and all that is true. Don't get me wrong, all of that is true. That there are people who are who are believers who rely on their faith to calm their spirits, to calm them, to physically calm them when they're emotional or when they're upset or when they're angry or when they're feeling a certain type of way. This has been their outlet. This is the way that they release and calm down. Absolutely. Um, but too often there are people who are inflicted with mental illnesses and I should say mental stresses and physical ailments brought on by their faith and their attempt to practice their religion. And so again, these forums that I'm a part of, if you guys had an opportunity to read some of the stories of people who've left and what they endured while part of these religions, and some of them are cults, but they still fall up under the faith, the belief in a God, the Christian God. And so the physical abuse that they endured, the mental abuse that they endured, the being if they're the women are second class citizens and subjugated to do whatever the man says, and he's able to go out and do whatever he wants to do, but you have to stay there. My wife and I watched a movie about 4 years ago, and it was one of these black church Christian movies where these stories they never really change, but husband and wife going through a lot of stuff. The husband was cheating. The wife found out. It's always the husband cheating, right? The wife found out. She went to her mentor, her counselor, her this older woman. I don't know it was a mother or a mother-in-law, and the mother told her that she should stay in the marriage and that God was gonna fix it, and that she should just don't say anything, just let God deal with it, and just go to her prayer corner, her prayer closet, and say these prayers. And my wife, she was just livid. She was livid. She's, in no way should a woman have to endure a man mistreating her, whether he's cheating or whether he's put his hands on her, simply because the Bible or you believe that the Bible tells you to. I mean that is asinine. But again, that is part of the health issues. So a lot of women and men that's been part of religion are mentally scarred by certain things that they've seen or that they've experienced in the church. Um, let's see. Christina said, I personally think that was more mental health issues and sought to be known in the history as a mass killer. Some see fame, attention anyway they can. Shaking my head. Yeah, exactly, Christine. And so there's a lot of reasons for what happened yesterday, and but I think in relationship again to what we're doing here, I'm more focused on our response and why our response is what it is and what's behind that. And so yeah, so I think that we've addressed those issues, and we'll come back to that at another time or whatever. But definitely welcome any comments that you guys still have on that. But the back to the whole mental illness part of it, and like I said, we'll probably continue this. We're probably going to close this out in 5 or 10 minutes, but we'll pick it up again next week because there are a whole lot of other things related to this uh, uh, that I want to touch on. But one reason why I continue to do what I do is because I am a part of these forums and I see people who are in anguish about their situation being part of these groups, and when they leave, I mean the things that they endure while being a part of these groups, and even when leaving, the things that they still have to endure, myself included. The mental aspect of it with losing friends and losing families and severing relationships with people, or being called names, or even have people threaten you like I've had on multiple occasions. That's mental. That's a mental health issue, and for some people who really take this stuff that serious, those mental issues can turn into physical issues because there's some people who who the way that they deal with those mental issues is that they may start to overeat, or they may start to inflict pain on themselves, or they may become depressed, and then that leads to other issues, stress, which can lead to heart issues and other things that we know how the body reacts to all of this. So I was thinking about this morning. If you really sit back and objectively look at what religion, in particular for this country, Christianity is doing, are there some good things? Absolutely. And I'll be the first to say that there have been some good things and that there are currently some good things that go on. But I think at this point we can clearly, those of us who used to be believers, even those of us who've never been believers, but can actually look. Um uh Leo, okay, I'll tell you in just a second where I am on Facebook. I think we can clearly say that right now religion, Christianity causes more problems than it's worth. I really believe that. I really believe that. I think that religion causes way more problems than really what it's worth. I think on a personal level, it's good for people who need that kind of support, or that reassurance, which is it's really not reassurance, but to them is reassurance. Who need to believe that there is a God out there, and that someone is going to come and rescue them. Even on a social level, for those people who needed the church for a social outlet, for friendships and organized activities for the kids and that kind of thing as well. But if you look at the history of religion, if you look at the wars that religion has started, if you look at the greed, if you look at what it's done to families, the gay and lesbian community, the way it has subjugated, has subjugated, continue to subjugate women, the misogyny of the excuses, the reason, the way it's been used to uh, validate slavery and some other issues. What's going on nowadays? You know, Christians telling women what they can and cannot do with their bodies. You know, manifest destiny, where white people, Europeans believe that God told them that they should come to this country and control it and take over. So it is it is done. It is done. It is doing so much more harm than good. Um, that that's kind of where I am on that. Neo X, if you on Facebook, and I hope Taisha is not listening, because it would be, because if I followed her instructions, then you would have been able to find me, because it would have been saved to saying on Facebook. But and she's been telling me that that everything that's social media for me should be saved to same. So it's easier, it's better for marketing, it's easier for people to find me. But but you can find me. It's WC O'Neal, Oneal. She also told me that the spelling of O'Neal, some people would spell it differently, so I have to spell it. So it's WC, and then the word O'Neal, that's my middle name, Oneal. So if you go to social media, if you go to Facebook, it's WC O'Neal. And one of these days, I'm gonna do exactly what Taisha told me to do, and I'm gonna have everything under same the same. Christine, is I spent over 30 in religion, and I didn't find one good thing about it. Just a waste of time and energy. Because I tell you, and like you, I spent about 40 years in it, and I made some good friends. I had a Sunday school teacher who was instrumental in me getting into college and the university that I eventually attended and graduated from. I learned some really good lessons. I think there were some things that were imparted in me that helped me make better decisions. I feel like I could have done that. I could have got that without church, but those things came by way of church. Um, and so even with all that being said, it still doesn't cloud my vision, and it doesn't change the way I feel about it. It doesn't stop me from being able to critically think about religion and Christianity, and what it has done, and what it hasn't done. So, like anything, we can benefit from something, but still see where there's issues. And when those issues outweigh the benefits of it, then we can, it's all right for us to be vocal about that, and even pull away from that. So absolutely, Christine. But there are a lot of people who feel like you feel. And, there are a lot of people who went through so much in the church. I mean, all kind of stuff, from being physically, sexually abused, mentally abused, to everything. And so I can understand how people can feel that way. And just the whole ordeal, just the whole pragmatism of church, just the whole dogma and fundamentalist things about church, going to church 3 or 4 times a week, having to dress a certain way, having to address people a certain way, having these beliefs that you had to stick to, things you could and could not do, things you could and could not say, people you couldn't date. I mean, if you was in certain denominations, you couldn't date people of other denominations. You couldn't go to parties. I mean, it's so much involved with it. So I can definitely see that. Steven Stevens said, my friend had a mini stroke a few days ago, and she said a lot of people were praying for her. First of all, Steven, I'm sorry to hear about your friend, and I hope that your friend is doing better. And so so that's a good point. Also, you said, I said I'd rather do something real, so I took her to the store and made dinner. Absolutely, Steve. 100%. So the thing that, and I think Taisha is about to come in. Can you join the video? Let's see. Can't join via video, but I noticed non-black parents are quick to secure a mental diagnosis to excuse their wild child's behavior. Absolutely, Taisha. Let me finish with Stephen, and then I'm gonna get to Taisha's comment. Stephen, great. That is exactly what we should be doing. We should be doing something. I ask people all the time, I said, why are we having prayers and thoughts and praying for the families after the kids were killed yesterday? We prayed as a society every day for the safety of all of us, including our kids. I know families, parents pray for their kids before they take their kids to school. So where was this God? Where was this God before the kids got killed? Before the kids were killed, where was God in this? So it's asinine to me for you to pray for a God to give you comfort because of it of a murder or incident that happened that he could have very well stopped. It's like I mean, this is an abusive relationship that we have with this God. This God is asinine and evil, because now we go to him to pray for comfort when it's for an event that he could have, for a tragedy that he could have prevented. It makes no sense to me. It makes absolutely no sense. It is the very definition of being in an abusive relationship. If my wife beat me, well, that ain't. But let me just say that if my wife beat me, but then I run to her to console me for the beating. Does that really make sense? I mean, you pray to a God who's supposed to be in control of everything, but yet when these atrocities and these tragedies happen, your God allows these, especially when it's kids and old people who are innocent, who are the most innocent of our community. Yet you still go to this God to console you. That's crazy to me. But yeah, Taisha. So Taisha, that was the point that I made last week about the Buffalo shooting. The one thing that I did not want to happen is that I did not want people to excuse the shooting because this was racially motivated hatred by a young white supremacist, right? And so I didn't want people to say, well, he was mentally ill. And so kind of excuse, not only are you excusing his behavior, but you're also excusing white supremacy. So here's an opportunity for us to say, okay, we know this is a problem. Here's a result of the issue. The problem is white supremacy. And this is what happens when it goes unchecked. And so now we need to check it as a country, but we still haven't, because now we are allowing for this guy to be excused, his behavior, his actions to be excused under the auspices of mental illness. Yesterday, I think is a little different, but still, he needs to pay for his actions to the fullest. I don't want his sentence to be minimized because of a perceived mental illness. If anybody else would have gotten the death penalty for something like this, he should get the death penalty or spend the rest of his life in jail. So I absolutely agree, Taisha. Uh, Eva Boutique Emporium, how are you? How are you? Glad you joined us today. You said, yes, I agree with everything that has been said. Thank you so much for the support. Is that Two Brown or Teo Brown? I can't see. They don't. I'm sorry. Don't get mad at me. You said I got on glasses. I need two pair of glasses. He said, peace and radiance. I'm new to your channel. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I left the church and religion right after the pandemic 2020. I have felt so free. Thank you. It is awesome to meet new unbelievers. Welcome, 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 Teo. I understand that freedom. I'm even 6, 7 years later, Sunday mornings, I'm like, yo, I'm free to do whatever it is that I want to do, as opposed to now I got to get ready to go to church and I really don't want to go. So it is a lot bigger than just, not having to go to church on Sunday mornings. The middle aspect of it is not relying on the God. It is not believing in something that we have little to no empirical proof exists. It is taking back my power to where I'm accountable and responsible for my actions 100%. I have nothing to blame it on. So absolutely, this is what this channel is about, and more important, this is what this whole movement is about. There are more and more of us who are deciding to come out and say, listen, I'm a non-believer, and this is what it is, and there's still a lot of us out there that haven't connected to a platform like this or a group like this. So I encourage you to invite other unbelievers. If you have friends who are believers and they want to come on and challenge some of the things that I'm saying, I am more than happy, because I am more than ready. So um, so I'm never turning another cheek. That's right. We talked about this last week, Tail, bro. We're not, and Taisha will tell you as well. We don't turn the other cheek. We don't forgive our enemies because that is asinine and that is unnatural. We don't turn the other cheek and we don't forgive our enemies. That's what we do here. Absolutely, no problem. It's okay. My name is always a little difficult. So is it Teo Brown? Hopefully I said it right. Um, Taisha said they do that to help their legal defense. Absolutely. That's exactly why they do it. That is exactly why they do it. And too often they get away with it, Taisha. And so if we see this happening, especially with the situation in Buffalo, our people in Buffalo need to be out there in the courtroom, in the streets, making sure that this guy's sentence is not lightened because of a perceived mental illness, because this was straight up racial hatred. He planned it. He planned it. He was there. I've heard reports where I know he was there the day before, kind of casing the place out, but he had been there at that particular store other times casing it out. That's not evidence of mental illness. That's organized. That is planning. That is not mental illness. Okay, thank you, Teo. Eva Batik Imperial, me and brother told me yesterday that I'm not blessed or won't receive anything because I don't believe in the Bible anymore. The cognitive dissonance is real, straight tomfoolery. I all you have to do is ask him or point out to him the number of devout Christians that are suffering in every way possible in their life, whether it be financially, whether it be relationship wise, whether it be health wise. I know more poor, sick, broke, angry Christians than I know anybody else. So if that's your definition of blessing, and I know many, now that I'm in this circle, I know many non-believers who are doing extremely well in every aspect of their life. So it doesn't matter. Life happens to all of us, good and bad, good health, bad health, good finances, bad finances. It's all about for the we do everything that we can to control things in our life, and I think for the most part, the results are a product of the things that we do. There are occasionally things that happen to us that we have no control over, but there's no such thing as a blessing from a God. Things happen. When things good happen in my life, is because I put in the work. When things bad happen in my life, is because I've done something wrong or something that that something I could have done better, or a mistake that I made. It has nothing to do with being blessed or highly favored. I watched my mother until she died at 67 years old be one of the most devout people that I ever met in my freaking life. And she suffered health wise and financially her entire freaking life. And so when anybody tell me that, that kind of hits a nerve, because it's my mother gave every penny that she had to the church, to the point where my sister and I had to pay our bills. I was like, "Yo, Mom, where's your money going?" And I knew it was going to the church. I got to pay my tithes. I got to pay my tithes every Sunday. She was in that church every time that those church doors opened, and she believed in her heart, that she had a great relationship, had a relationship with God her whole life. My mother was 67 years old, was never obese, never smoked, never drank, and she was on 21 different medications when she died. Right, and her whole life, as far as back as I can remember, even back in high school playing football, she was she had asthma really, really bad. So she was always sick. So that's a bunch of crap when people say that, you're not going to be blessed because you're no longer in the church. And I've heard that too. I heard it from a mentor who I love dearly, who said that bad things were happening at the time to my wife because we had stepped out of the church and we had left the church. I heard that from my mother-in-law. I heard that from my sister. So, I that peeves me. But yeah, I'm sorry to go off on a tangent like that. Kareem Gideon. Gideon. Hey, how you doing? Glad to have you here. Teo, I finally asked this question. Why did God just kill the so-called devil and angels if they rebelled? Why would he send them here on earth with us? Make it make sense. The reason why God didn't kill Satan or the angels or whatever is the same reason um, the uh, the coyote never catches the road runner. Because if that was to happen, then the show would be over. So if God killed the devil, then it would have been no show. It'd have been nothing. It'd have been nothing. So in that way, the God of the Bible is a sadistic, evil being. Thankfully, that being does not exist in real life. But for those believers, you ask them that question, they come up with everything from free will to whatever. But again, none of it makes logical sense. So let's see. My brother told me that who's this Imperial? My brother told me that the spirit of pride and confusion is on me. I told him that there are nothing wrong with having pride. I said the same thing. People say, I've heard that as well. I've heard of you too prideful, you're too boastful. Uh, Taisha, I'm gonna get back to you. I'm sorry, I missed that. I'm too boastful, whatever. My wife has an uncle and aunt who are who are so against showing pride or being prideful in anything. It is utterly disgusting. It is all because of the church. So they have 3 kids, and hopefully they're not listening to this, but they know who they are. Um, 2 of their kids are basically doing absolutely crap. I mean, they're not, and these are grown individuals. They're not really doing what I would guess that they would want them to do, right? And like just me on the outside looking in, I wouldn't be proud of what they're doing for a living or in life, their whole situation, right? 2 of them. But the third child is awesome, outstanding. He graduated from Morehouse College and he went to a law school, and he was the first African American student to be the top student in the school ever in the history of that school. It was a law school down in Florida, doing extremely well, practicing law, just got married, had a beautiful baby. And we had a conversation with them one day, and they really flat out told us that they couldn't, they wouldn't be proud of their son because they felt that was a sin to be prideful. And my wife and I just looked at them like, you guys got to be just, so it was sad. It was sad. So yeah, so I take it as a badge of honor. Yeah, I'm proud. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of the things that I've accomplished, the things that I've done. Not boastful, not to the point where I'm degrading someone else, but there's nothing wrong with being proud of yourself. We need more of that in our community, and not being prideful about the stupid stuff that we do, but just being prideful of who we are as a people and what we've accomplished, what we've come through, and the fact that we're still here. So we need more of that. So Taisha, let me go back up. Taisha said something. Let me see. Taisha said, okay, it's been 8 years that I left Christianity, and it's the best thing I could have ever done. I do not fear God's gonna get me or waiting on the Lord. Everything I want, it comes to me after I put in the work. Bingo, that's it. Period. As they said, period. That is it. I have these discussions with Christians, and I said, listen, I said, trust me when I tell you I am in the best place mentally, and in every aspect of my life. Things happen to all of us, but I am in so much a better place than I than now than I ever was as a Christian. I mean, I have zero regrets leaving Christianity in 2015. Absolutely zero regrets. The only thing that caused me pause is that every now and then I'm like, oh, is God mad at me? And that's part of because I was indoctrinated so much for so long into that. But then I come to my sisters and say, he's not real. So there's no need to be worried about that. But that's some of the stuff that I think for all of us who are on this kind of journey, who left religion, Christianity particularly, and we're going through this, that's part of the process. We have to get that because the indoctrination is so strong from birth that is in us and is ingrained in us. But I have absolutely zero results. Zero regrets for leaving. Thank you, Taisha, for those comments. Absolutely. Where did I stop? Greetings. Somebody saying to Taisha. Teo is saying, Taisha, so nice to be a part of the community and here with like-minded, free-thinking people. Absolutely. We are free thinkers that know how to critically think. That is what it's all about, Teo. Thank you so much. Neo, yes, I am using StreamYard. Yes, we are. Taisha introduced this to me. Yeah, Taisha is responsible for all of this, y'all. I'm just here. Her between her and my wife, I have 2 really, really, really strong women that are a part of this whole thing that's getting me out here. So again, as I said early on when I first started, I'm so appreciative of Taisha and my wife for making me for doing this. So yeah, absolutely. Teo, as a parent, there's no way I would be able to sit and watch someone rape my child and do nothing about it. What kind of father parent would this, or what made me leave the belief system? Teo, that's I don't know if you were on at the time, but I talked about some of the forums that I'm a part of. A lot of them are Leaving Christianity forums, and just some of the stories that people post on these forums about their experience within Christianity, within religion, and what happened, after leaving. And a lot of these stories are just like you said, where women were raped, and even guys, even males and females both were sexually assaulted or raped, and they voiced this to other adults in the church, and no one did anything. As a matter of fact, they went the extra mile to protect the offenders, because offenders might have been, a pillar of society. They might have been a minister or a deacon or somebody part of the church, or just from their interpretation of their faith, um, they didn't do anything. And I think what's even worse is some situations they even blame the victim, saying that the young lady didn't dressed a certain way that caused these actions, or somehow made an excuse because this male raped this young boy. So it's always some kind of excuse. So that is so tragic. Again, when I talk about the damage that religion, Christianity, is doing to society as a whole, it happens a lot in our community. Um, I told my wife one day, because she never experienced this, thankfully. But I told her, growing up and in my conversations with people and everybody I knew went to church, I venture to say that about 70% of the people, especially the girls or the women that I knew, had at some point in their lives been sexually assaulted. And 9 times out of 10, it was somebody from the church. And so almost every woman that I know has a story. That's close to me have these stories, or if it wasn't someone from the church, then someone from the church protected these individuals, right? So yeah, so again, the harm that it does. And someone say, uh, Mayat speaks. Yes, conditioning is real. Absolutely, it is real. Teo said, I no longer hope, I decide. And that's what we all should be doing. We decide to do something. We don't, no one is going to save us. Hope is that, whatever. We just need to do what we need to do. They blamed me and I was only 5. Wow. Wow. Exactly. Oof. That burns, because I know too many stories like that. How do you blame a 5-year-old? I mean, how do you, it's times like this that I wish that hell was real, so that people that are responsible for what happened to you are the ones who you told or knew about it and didn't do anything, that these people would really be placed in a place like hell. These are the times I wish that hell was real for people like that. So yeah, so I'm so sorry to hear that, Teo. Unfortunately, that is a story that is too common. That is too common. Again, add this to the list of 8 million reasons why we need to get rid of religion. So yeah, but hopefully you got through it, or as much as you can, and you sought out the counseling. I have someone who's really close to me who, at 50 years old, is just now starting to to grasp that what happened to them as a child, as a young girl, and I've often said to them that they need to go somewhere and get counseling for it, um, because I mean they're 50 years old, but it still affects them today. And I'm really close to this person, and I've told her that just she needs to get counseling. DOX, one day you should drop the link to StreamYard so we chat with you. You said a lot of things today, and I can relate to. Thanks for the encouragement. Yeah, I usually let me get and I hate to say, so I would get with Taisha and make sure that we're doing it. But I send the link to Taisha, so she's always a guest on, so it's always her and I. But let me, because that's something that I do want to do. I do want to be able to have people come on live, and so we can have a live dialogue and let those individuals tell about their experience, as opposed to just kind of reading some of the comments here. We'll still read the comments, but I do want to do that. I do want to have a split screen or maybe a couple of people on and just help people tell about their experiences, invite other people on. So yeah, just let me make sure that I'm set up to really do this right. And so that'd be something that we should be doing really, really soon. Um, Somebody, I think, I said, so sad. Sorry you went through that. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Save the sane and speaks. Thank you so much. So much love and light in you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Same to you. Same to you. So where are we? Are we? What time is? Oh, it's 6:15. I've been going a long time. I didn't think it was going to go this long, but we kind of get into these conversations. So as I get ready to close out, I want to say thank you to everybody who came on, everybody that joined, all of the comments. Hopefully we got to all the comments. Again, thank you to Taisha for being on. I know that she made time for this because she is so busy, but she squeezed out the time. We will work on being able to get guests on. I think it's not that difficult at all. I just need to send a link to people. So we'll do that. Taisha, she will work with me on that, and I'll try to corner her, try to steal some of her time. Um, Sharon said, "Hello, I'll look at the replay." Yes, please look at the replay. Thank you for so much. So those of you, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Invite people to subscribe to the channel. Save to Sane. Also, you can pick up my book, From Saved to Sane: My Journey Away from Christianity and Why Christianity Has Been Detrimental to the African American Community. And it's me, Willie O. Cartwright. You can get it on Amazon, or you can cash out me at Willie Cartwright, WillieCartWright 1906. 1906. Willie Cartwright 1906. Cash out me $19.99. $19.99 and your address, and we will send you a signed copy of the book. Again, you want to follow me on Facebook. I said this earlier. So it's WC O'Neal. Taisha, don't get mad. It's WC O'Neal, Oneal. If you want to laugh or you want to get into heated discussions with people who come at me on Facebook, please do so. WC O'Neal. You can take a look at a post I made yesterday that made a lot of people mad, but most of my posts will anger people. On Instagram, I think I'm Willie Cartwright 1906 on Instagram. So that's where I am. But please subscribe and look forward to next week. We will address some more of the health effects of leaving Christianity and being part of religion, and some other issues. Those of you who have a specific topic that you want to talk about, you can leave a comment on the YouTube channel, and we can address those topics as well. So I'm always looking for topics. So yeah, absolutely. And then actually, if you want to leave a topic, we'll figure out a way to maybe get you on live on StreamYard if you want, if there's something that you really want to talk about live. So yeah, we can do that. Anything else? That is it for me. Thank you so much. Thank you. All of you for joining. Thank you for the comments. Appreciate it. I will see you guys next week.